And you thought I didn't know about this, I didn't. Listen, I've always, I have a love-hate relationship with Penn, you know that. But the love part is here. And it's at the golf tournament yesterday, and it's at the early, the 60s, I call it the early 60s boys that came in for breakfast on Thursday. And I had a speech prepared because it had more to do with coaching and the representation of coaches and the acknowledgement of so many coaches. And I felt bad that my wife should be on that coaching list because she used to coach CYO, and she also used to coach at Harvard High School, middle school. My son should be on it. There's so many people. And even today, or yesterday, seeing people involved in the Penn Relays. Gina's not here this morning because she's down representing Chris Sullivan, who's getting inducted into the Wall of Fame. There's always something going on. There's always something else going on, and a lot of times, just to have you here to represent alumni. There's so many alumni out there that are not here today, but they'll be here next year, or they'll be here the year after. And I've gotten texts this morning of people that were apologetic that they couldn't make it, they got stuck in traffic. There's an effort. And I think the thing that Kerry was referring to is that sometimes we take it for granted. We are a family, and there's no other. You'd be amazed that there's programs out there that are just dumbfounded by how we operate together. And there's so many different generations. Well, the beauty of it is there's so many different generations that don't know each other. I seem to the beauty of this job, and I've always said it, I get to know you all. And sometimes I think you all know each other, and you don't. And when you come together like today, I start to see this interconnectivity, which is incredible for me. And I'll say one thing: athletes, and I used to always say this, when I got into coaching my very first year, if I did nothing else but coach for 1 year, I understood the value of coaching. And I understood the value of what Tom Donnelly did for me, who to me is the iconic of all coaches. He retired last year from Harvard College, and he took me for 15 years to coach me professionally. And after my first year of coaching, we won an NCAA title with the women. I wasn't enamored with coaching, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't. But I walked away after that 1 year realizing how much coaches do for athletes. And I realized as an athlete how self-centered I was, and how I took emotionally from my family, how I took emotionally from my friends to excel. And I also acknowledged how selfless coaches are, because they're giving the whole time. In the first year when I got into coaching, I just felt everyone needed things. I need this, I need to be in this race, I need to do this, I need to do that. It was overwhelming for me because as an athlete you didn't think like that. You wanted, you took. And I think on a deeper level, if I did nothing else but coach for that 1 year, I always acknowledged that it was worth the 1 year. Little did I think I'd be there 27 years later. And some days it feels like it was only 2 hours, and maybe a day like yesterday it feels like it was 2 centuries that you're coaching. But nonetheless, the things that I value the most are the camaraderie of our alumni, the effort that people make. There's people that I reach out to in terms of when I think of groups today. I think of Kevin Leonard. You're the iconic person who keeps your 70s group together, and it grew out of a relationship that we developed. You got basically crushed by a cab in Logan Airport. You're in hospital in Boston for I don't know how many months. We connected through that process. And after you said, what can I do? And I said, bring the 70s back together. And you did. And you did an incredible job. I think of... Yeah. Started that morning breakfast. I don't know, we were talking about it the other day 10 years ago, and all of a sudden you were leaving. And I could sense you were seeing something valuable, that you're in the second half of your life, if you want to put it that way, and you're starting to realize the value that you've had from friendships. And let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Now I get a traditional email from you in February. Are we still okay for this standing breakfast that we have on that Thursday? And it's incredible. I think we outdid ourselves this year. I think we were there for about 2 or 3 hours having breakfast. And I always remember a day where I looked out the window and you guys were all this the other day. I looked out the window, and you were sitting at the table, and Jay Wright had just won his championship title, and he was outside in the parking lot. And all of a sudden I had this idea, there's no one to ask. I went out, I said, Jay, there's a bunch of old-timers in here from way back. Would you come in and just say hi? And he came in and he sat with you guys for half an hour. And what was amazing to me, he kind of knew where everyone came from. I can tell by your accent, you went to St. Aloysius, so you went to St. James, or you went to St. Pat's. And that's who we are as Villanovans. And it just doesn't transcend, it's not just athletics and track and field, it's all sports. But I appreciate what you guys done. Terry Delaney, you're my rock in terms of what I would call instructional chairmanship of a group of people. And to our staff, as Kerry said, and to all the people out there that have represented us as coaches. There's no better way. I read years and years ago, I'm very fortunate, I think, when I say this, is that the two most valuable, rewarding careers in life are teaching, which I think coaches are teachers, and farming, of all things. And before I finish up, I want to just say, Lynn, you've been my rock in terms of administrators. You started out not knowing a whole lot about track and field some 2 decades ago or more, and you made such an effort to understand us. And we're not easy to understand, and you know that, right? And I appreciate that. I tell people what a great relationship I have with my administrator, and I love that part of my job. I love to come and sit with you, and I love to come and talk with you. And it's usually not about track; it's about people. And I think that's the most valuable thing. And Eric, welcome. I hope. Now listen, don't vote against him. You know he came from Oregon, right? However, these old timers, they'll understand that. Not the old timers, but yeah. But welcome, and I hope we can impart with you. You're a Villanova true and true. You're just coming back, and I want to welcome you back, and I hope to stay for a while. And I hope you have great relationships. I want to thank Matt is here, Nicole is here. I want to acknowledge 2 young people over here at the table, Dylan and Jenna, who write for the Villanova. And I met them coming off the train last night, coming back from Penn Relays, and I said, you need to come to the breakfast this morning. And I got here and I said, hey, they're already here. That was my answer. They're already here. They're inside having breakfast. But thanks for your commitment, and I mean this sincerely. Particularly with Dylan, you made a great effort to every week to get on the phone, to chat, and to talk, and to represent us through the community of Villanova. So there's as much as I want to say this, I love my job. I love what I do. I love what we represent. And as much as I can't guarantee what we're going to happen today, I almost don't care. I care, but I don't care. What I care about is this. And to me, I feel like it was worth my while staying for 27 years to have something like this happen this morning, to have the golf yesterday, to have the breakfast on Thursday, and to continue doing that stuff, because that's really who we truly are. And I appreciate you guys being here today, and ladies, and continued success in your